यस्याश्चौरः चिकुरमुकुरः कर्णपूरो मयूरः भासो हासः कविकुलगुरु कालिदासो विलासः हर्षो हर्षः हृदयवसतिः पञ्चबाणस्तु बाणः केषां नैषा कथय कविता कामिनी कौतुकाय. Sanskrit poetry is like a beautiful maiden, where the composition Chaura Panchashika is like her hairdo, and poet Mayura is like her earrings. Bhasa is like her smile, and Kalidasa is her indulgence. Poet Harsha is her pleasure, and Bana is her cupid. Thus, all poets adorn this maiden of poetry with their marvelous compositions. How beautifully Jaydev describes the beauty of Sanskrit poetry. He calls Bhasa as the smile of Sanskrit poetry. Let us know more about this dramatist. Bhasa is one of India's earliest known Sanskrit dramatists, of whose personal history we know nothing but the name. In the history of Sanskrit literature, his name is as famous as that of Kalidas's. In fact, Kalidas's first play, called Malavikagnimitram, mentions Bhasa among other illustrious dramatists of the past. Bana, the great poet of 7th century AD, compares Bhasa's dramas to a temple complex and says, सूत्रधार कृतारंभैः नाटकैर बहुभूमिकैः सपताकैर यशो लेभे भासो देवकुलैरिव. Bhas achieved success through his compositions that had many characters and episodes and began with a sutradhar, just like a temple complex that has many stories, features, and banners. As I said earlier about Bhasa, we know very little. In 1912, renowned Indian scholar Mahamahopadhyay T.Ganapatishastri rediscovered a treasure trove of a codex of palm leaf manuscripts in Padmanabhapuram in Kerala. These manuscripts were a set of 13 plays written by an unnamed author in Malayalam script. Though Bhasa's name is not explicitly mentioned in any of the plays, T.Ganapatishastri proved through his intensive research that they belonged to a single author called Bhas. These works are known as Bhasa-Nataka-Chakra, consisting of 13 dramas. Of these 13 dramas, we will discuss his most acclaimed play called Svapnavasavadattam here in detail. Svapnavasavadattam literally means Swapne Drushta Vasavadatta Yasmin Tat. That is, a play where Vasavadatta was seen in a dream. A famous 10th century AD Sanskrit poet called Rajashekhara has praised his composition thus. Bhasa-Nataka-Chakresmin chekaihi kshipte parikshitum Svapnavasavadattasya dahako bhunna pavakaha. When all the compositions of Bhasa were thrown in the fire to prove their mettle, Svapnavasavadattam remained unconsumed by the flames. In all likelihood, it signifies that the severest criticism could do no harm to it. The plot of Vasavdattam is drawn from the legendary folklore of King Udayana, who ruled the province of Vatsa with its capital at Kaushambi near modern-day Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. The adjacent kingdoms on either side were Ujjain and Magadha. The background of this drama is that King Udayana fell in love with Vasavdatta, daughter of King Pradyot Mahasen of Ujjain. He eloped with her and married her, which turned Ujjain into a hostile neighbor. Moreover, Udayan became so engrossed with his new queen that he started neglecting the state affairs. The play indicates that he even had to suffer certain losses and setbacks. When a general named Aruni planned to invade Vatsa, the kingdom came under grave threat. The remedy, as per his ministers, was to enter into a marital alliance with the kingdom of Magadha. His loyal ministers Yaugandharayan and Rumanvan concocted a plan to bring Udayan back to senses and get him married to Magadhan princess Padmavati. The ministers sought Queen Vasavdatta's cooperation to execute this plan, and Vasavdatta readily cooperated in order to save the king and the kingdom. So, while the king was away on a hunting expedition, the royal pavilion in a frontier village called Lavanaka was burnt down. A rumor was spread that Vasavdatta and Minister Yaugandharayan have both perished in the fire, whereas in reality, both of them slipped away to Magadha disguised as pilgrims. The play Svapnavasavadattam commences in the context of above background and is concluded in 6 acts. In the first act, Yaugandharayan and Vasavdatta are roaming in a hermitage in Magadha, where the queen mother of Magadha kingdom has chosen to stay during her Vanaprasthashram. Princess Padmavati visits her mother in this hermitage and declares to grant any wish the dwellers or passengers there would have. Here, Yaugandharayan finds an opportunity to put Vasavdatta in the security of Magadhan court. He pretends to be Vasavdatta's brother and asks Padmavati to take his sister as a ward till the time her husband returns. Thus, here onwards, Vasavdatta stays with Padmavati as part of her retinue. In Act 2, bonding between Vasavdatta and Padmavati is shown. However, by the end of the act, it is known that Padmavati is engaged to Udayan. This leaves Vasavdatta heartbroken. The third act reflects the pain of Vasavdatta when she is given the task of plaiting a wedding garland for her husband's second marriage. In fourth act, Udayan admits that his heart is still bound to Vasavdatta, though he knows that she is no more. The fifth act is where Udayan dreams about Vasavdatta. The real Vasavdatta also happens to be in the same room. The conversation here between a sleeping Udayan talking to Vasavdatta in his dream and the real Vasavdatta replying to the sleeping king is beautifully crafted by Bhasa. At the end of this conversation, Vasavdatta puts back the hanging hand of sleeping Udayana back on the bed, and the king wakes up startled and catches a glimpse of her. In his sleepiness, he is unable to determine whether he saw Vasavdatta for real or it was all just a dream. I cannot resist but quote 2 beautiful verses that follow this incident. Yadi tavad ayam swapno dhanyam apratibodhanam athayam vibhramo vasyat vibhramo hyastu mechiram. If that was a dream, how glorious never to wake again. If this be illusion, long may this illusion last. Yoyam santrastaya devya taya bahur nipiditaha swapne pyutpanna sansparsho roma harsham namunchati. This arm of mine was closely clasped by the agitated queen. Even now, it has not ceased to thrill with joy, though it felt her touch only in a dream. It is this incident curated by Bhasa that has given this play its title, Svapnavasavadattam. By the end of above act, it is announced to the audience that Udayana has defeated General Aruni and regained the control of his kingdom with the help of Darshaka, the king of Magadha. Thus, the plan concocted by Yaugandharayan proved fruitful. The sixth and final act of the play is all about reconciliation. King Mahasen of Ujjain forgives Udayan by admitting that they always wished him to be their son-in-law. Yaugandharayan appears and reveals that Vasavdatta is alive. Padmavati renders her apologies to Vasavadatta for treating her the way she did due to ignorance of truth. Vasavadatta readily forgives her, considering her as a younger sister. The ministers are forgiven for their acts of deceit, as their intentions were to save the kingdom. The play ends with the prayer for the king to rule for eternity. Any composition is evaluated based on many features. However, a key feature is called rasa nishpadan, or creation of sentiments in the heart of audience. As is rightly said, Vakyam rasatmakam kavyam. A sentence full of rasa or sentiment is a true composition. Bhasa Svapnavasavadattam succeeds in bringing out various sentiments, may it be of Shringar, which is romance, or of Karuna, which is pathos, of Hasya or laughter, or the sentiment of Veer or bravery. Let us look at verses depicting each sentiment. Shringar, the sentiment of love or romance. Let us see the following verse. Kamojjainim gate mai tada kamapyavasthang gate društva svairam avanti rajatanayam panche shavah patitaha tairadhyapi sashalyameva rudayam bhuyascha vidhavayam pancheshur madano yada kathamayam shashthasharah patitaha. Once, when King Udayana was unknowingly in vicinity of disguised Vasavadatta, he felt the same feelings of love and passion rising in his heart. He was not able to understand why this was happening to him, and he said, "Once in Ujjain, when the unimpeded vision of Avanti princess brought me to this condition that you know of, the god of love let fly at me with all his 5 arrows. Of those, I still bear the pain in my heart, and now I am wounded again. If Cupid has only 5 arrows, what is this 6th arrow he has discharged at me?" When the king's friend Vasantaka asks the king as to whom does he love more, Vasavadatta or Padmavati, Udayan replies, Padmavati bahumata mama yadyapi rupashila madhuryaihi Vasavadatta baddham natu tavan me manoharati. Padmavati I much admire for her beauty, charm and character, but she doesn't win my heart, which is still bound to Vasavadatta. When Vasavadatta in disguise hears these words, she feels rewarded for all her sufferings. Udayana used to teach a lute called Ghoshavati to Vasavadatta. When Vasavadatta was lost, so was Ghoshavati on the banks of Narmada. Someone who found it returned it to the king. When the king saw the lute, he instantly remembered Vasavadatta and expressed his desire thus. Chirap prasuptah kamo me वीणया प्रतिबोधितः तान्तु देवीं न पश्यामि यस्या घोषवती प्रिया. My passion, dormant for a long time, has been awakened at the sight of the lute. But why is it that I cannot see the queen who loved this lute so dearly? Now let us look at some verses that generate the sentiment of pathos or karunaras in us. Vasavadatta volunteered to be declared dead for the benefit of the kingdom. Yet, to see her husband marry another woman is painful. In Act 2, when the marriage of Udayan and Padmavati is announced, she sighs, Yatha yatha tvarate tatha tathandhik kriyate me hrudayam. That is, the more they hasten, the deeper the gloom in my heart. When Padmavati orders Vasavadatta to plait their wedding garland, she curses her destiny thus. Etadapi maya kartavyam asit? Aho, akarunaha khalvishvaraha. That is, must I do even this? Oh, The gods are indeed cruel. Vasavadatta feels that even lovebirds are blessed who can't survive when separated from each other. However, she can't even choose to die. She, the unlucky one, has to keep alive in the hope of meeting her lord someday. When Vasavadatta's memory rekindles the pain in Udayan's heart, he observes, Dukkham tyaktam baddha mulonuragah smrutva smrutva yati dukkham navatvam yatra tvesha yad vimuccheha bashpam praptanurunya yati buddhi prasadam. A deeply rooted passion is hard to abandon. By constant recollection, the pain is renewed. This is the way of the world, that the mind must cancel its debts with tears to gain tranquility. Apart from the dominant romance and pathos, a little humor is added through sentences of the king's friend Vasantaka, and sentiment of bravery is depicted through the conviction of the king to defeat Aruni and regain his lost prestige. The mainstay of Bhasa's style of writing is its simplicity, yet profoundness of thought, nobility of his characters, and depth of emotions depicted. Let us explore his Artha Gauravam or profoundness of thought in following verses. In the first act, when the soldiers of Magadha are clearing the path for Padmavati's arrival and ask Vasavadatta to move aside, she asks, Am I to be driven aside? Here, Yaugandharayan says, Purvam tvayapyabhimatam gatameva asit shlaghyam gamishyasi punar vijayena bhartuhu kalakramena jagatah parivartamana chakrar pankhtiriva gacchati bhagya panktihi. You will be reinstated your lost glory after the victory of your husband. The world changes with passage of time. The lines of destiny go up and down like the spokes in a wheel. When Yaugandharayan seeks refuge for Vasavadatta at Magadhan court, the Chamberlain points out following to Padmavati before she makes up her mind. Sukham artho bhavet datum, sukham pranaha sukham tapaha, sukham anyat bhavet sarvam, dukkham nyasasya rakshanam. Wealth would be easy to give, or even one's life, or even the fruit of one's penance. Anything else would be easy, but hard is the guarding of a pledge or trust. In the sixth act, when Udayan apologizes to envoy of Ujjain for not being able to protect Vasavadatta, the envoy states, Kahakam shakto rakshitam mrityu kale, rajjuchhede ke ghatam dharayanti, evam lokas tulya dharma vananam, kale kale chidyate ruihate cha. Who can protect whom in the hour of death? When the rope breaks, who can hold the pitcher? It is the same law for men and forests. They grow and are cut from time to time. The third aspect of Bhasa's writing is the nobility of his characters. All his characters have pure intentions and their conduct is most appropriate. Let us see these features in following characters. King Udayana. Udayana married Vasavadatta by eloping with her, but he was a devoted husband. However, eloping with Vasavadatta created bitterness between him and Vasavadatta's father Pradyot Mahasen. When Vasavadatta died, he felt how he would ever face Mahasen as a son-in-law. His anxiety is depicted in following verse. Kim vakshati iti hridayam parishankitam me kanya mayapya paruta nacharakshita sa bhagyaish chalair mahadavapta gunopaghatah putra pitur janita rosha ivasmi bhitah. My heart is anxious as to what he will say. I stole away his daughter and could not protect her. Through fickle fortune, I have greatly damaged my own name. And now I am afraid, like a son who has roused his father's wrath. Yaugandharayan as a minister. Yaugandharayan planned a deceitful ploy to bring Udayan to senses. Recognizing his contributions, Udayan explained, मिथ्योन्मादैश्च युद्धैश्च शास्त्रदृष्टैश्च मन्त्रितैः भवत्यत्नैः खलु वयं मज्जमानाः समुत्थताः. By feigning madness, by battles, and by plans worked out according to codes of polity, you, by your excursions, raised us up when we were sinking. Rumanvan as a minister. Rumanvan knew about Yaugandharayan's plan, but he acted clueless. His devotion towards his master was so deep that people talked about it thus. Anahare tulyaha pratataruditak kshamavadanaha sharire samskaram nrupati samadukham parivahan divava ratrauva paricharati yatnair narapatim nrupah pranan sadyas tyajati yadi tasyapi uparamaha. Like the king, he will touch no food. His face is wasted by ceaseless weeping. Depressed by sorrow like his lord, he neglects the care of self. Untiring, he attends the king day and night. Should the king suddenly depart his life, he will also expire. Vasavadatta. Vasavadatta was a devoted wife who volunteered to be rumored as dead for the welfare of her lord's kingdom. She not only had to suffer the pain of separation, but also serve as an assistant to Padmavati, who was to become Udayan's wife and her co-wife. But never did she think evil of Padmavati. In fact, she admired her for her beauty and nobility. Padmavati. Padmavati was a humble princess who kept her word no matter what. As promised, she took good care of Vasavadatta in her custody and treated her like a friend. After marrying Udayana, she became aware that king still loved his dead wife more. But yet, she accepted this fact and carried on with her responsibilities. After she came to know that her assistant was no other than Vasavadatta, she sought forgiveness from her. Another aspect of Bhasa's writing is his association with nature. Just like Kalidas, Bhas observes nature very closely. He too excels at interweaving human emotions with nature around. For example, in the following verse, he reflects emotions of Udayana when he stops Vasantaka from disturbing a group of bumblebees. Madhumadakala madhukaro madanartabhihi priyabhirupagudhaha padanyasa vishanna vayamiva kanta viyukta syuhu. Drowsy with draughts of honey, the bees are humming softly in the close embraces of their love-sickened queens. Should our footsteps startle them, like us, they will be parted from their darlings. In another verse, when a pilgrim describes the lamentations of King Udayana for his lost wife, Bhasa writes, Naive danim dukkhitaschakravaka Naive pyanye stri visheshair viyuktaha Dhanya sastri yam tatha vetti bharta Bhartrus snehat sahi dagdhapya dagdha. No lovebirds so lament their loss, nor even those that are bereft of fairy brides. Blessed is the woman who is thus loved by her lord. Though burnt by fire, she still lives on in her lord's fond remembrance. Another interesting feature of Bhasa's writing is the way he composes the Nandi, that is, an auspicious verse in the beginning of a composition. He praises the god in such a way that the words used also reflect the names of the main characters of his play. For example, the first verse of the play Vasavadattam is thus: Udayanavendu savarna Vasavadatta balau balasya tvam Padmavatirna purnau Vasantakamrau bhujau patam. This means, may the arms of Balram protect you, which are fair as the young moon at its rising, given their full vigor by wine, full of beauty, incarnate and lovely as spring. Through its wordplay, this verse introduces the names of main characters of the play, that are Udayana, Vasavadatta, Padmavati and Vasantaka. Well, there is so much more to Bhasa than what is described here. It is impossible to summarize all his qualities through a single composition. Hence, to understand him more, I intend to discuss one more composition of his in detail in the next video. His composition Pratima Natakam, based on Ramayana, would be a good choice to explore further subtleties of this master craftsman. So, stay tuned for the next video, that is Bhasa and Pratima Natakam.